This 1 Degree Outside video is sponsored by the Topsfield Fair, America's oldest fair. You can pre-order your admission, meal, and ride tickets today at topsfieldfair.org and join the fun October 4th through 14th, conveniently located on Route 1, just off of Interstate 95.
A Monday Insights video for you here. That deeper dive into meteorology will take you out through the week. We are talking about some accumulating snow in some of the ski areas. That's something that's exciting for folks who are boarders or skiers. We'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes. The week starts windy. It's going to die down for you, but that new wind is bringing in cooler air so that frost becomes likely for many of us as we get deeper into the week. We'll look at that too. This cool pattern is a dry pattern. The Canadian air tends to be kind of devoid of moisture, and that also means this pattern really doesn't bring us any big New England storms in the coming days to really 2 weeks. Jet stream, I'm not going to belabor this point too much because we're going to look more at the jet stream in our pattern predictions coming up in just a few minutes. But bottom line, a big jet stream trough has been carved out across the northeast and eastern Canada. When you get on the north side of the jet stream, which is where we are, you get into the cooler air. And at the surface, that cold front came through during the course of the overnight into this morning, and that brought with it a change of air that now, as the wind picks up, is bringing in the cooler air under the belly of the storm center that's strengthened along the eastern New England coast and now has made its way up to the mouth of the St. Lawrence River. So as we're under the belly of that system, the green is where you have high temperatures in the 50s, that deeper green, high temperatures in the 40s, and that's a shot that's been coming into New England, even some 30s up in northern New York for high temperatures as we get into the course of the day today. Tomorrow, expect to find the cold front getting offshore even farther. We still have that cold air that's in place. Highs once again in the 40s for a good portion of central and northern New England. We'll look at that a little bit more in a minute, but I do want to show you also in terms of the wind, we've had some gusts picking up, and over the course of the remainder of today, the gusts are going to continue to increase across southern New England, coming out of the southwest. Across northern New England, they start out of the southwest, then come out of the west and northwest. By this evening, notice the gusts getting over 35 miles per hour. That's all the way down to Worcester County. Providence gusts over 30, Boston as well. So typically, as you get to sundown, the wind dies down. In this case, the wind is actually going to keep kicking and may pick up a little bit this evening and tonight as that storm center strengthens going up to the St. Lawrence River. And so what that means is the wind continues tonight. It does cut back a little bit on the frost threat because usually you need the wind to calm down a little. Notice that tomorrow in the morning, the wind is still gusting up to 20 miles an hour. But as the day goes on, the wind quiets and the frost threat will grow for many of us for Tuesday night into Wednesday night for that matter as well. One other thing, kind of quiet, but it sneaks up on you here, the upslope snow, we call it, across some of the mountains, particularly the Green Mountains and the northwest-facing slopes of the Whites. When you get a wind that does start to come out of the west and northwest and just enough moisture left over in the atmosphere, you can force that air up the mountain slopes, and what you do is you create what we call upslope clouds that result in upslope snow. The areas that face the wind are the ones that can crank out some snow. It does get cold enough that you'll do that as we go through Tuesday and even into the first part of Wednesday before the dry air finally takes over. Now, if you're not in the mountains, you tend to dry out as soon as Tuesday when there may be nothing more than a sprinkle from some fair weather clouds. And as the week goes on, you continue to be cool but dry. So in terms of predicted snow amounts for the base, let's look right in the valleys. We're talking about what probably are very limited amounts. We think it's on the order of a fraction of an inch to, in some spots, when you get up around, for example, Stowe or Bolton or Sugarbush, there may be over an inch that falls when you get around the base. Same thing when you come up into, let's say, Pittsburgh, you'll probably end up with about an inch of snow that'll come down on the valley floors. But if we change things up and look at the summits instead, it's a different story. We get some elevation, and that upslope snow adds up a bit more. The colder temperatures with elevation allow for the amounts to increase as we head through particularly Tuesday night into Wednesday, so that by the time you get to the end of Wednesday, look at this, the summit of Jay may pick up 6. The summit of Stowe may pick up 5, Bolton 4, Sugarbush 4. Summit of Killington may pick up 2. Summit of Mount Snow may pick up 1. And my goodness, Cannon, the Balsams, if you get to the summits, maybe talking about what's on the order of 5 or 6 inches of snow. Again, all of that upslope snow. Those of you who love Cannon Mountain, this is your kind of event. Jay Peak, same thing, when you can get the wind to come out of the west or northwest, which it does deeper into the week. For the rest of us, again, our lows tonight, and I don't usually start with tonight, but because it is kind of meaningful with the colder air, I wanted to do that, do get down to the 30s in a number of spots. I think there's enough wind that if you're around 35, 36, you probably don't end up with a frost during the overnight tonight. Tomorrow's high temperatures, 40s across northern New England. There's Saranac Lake at 38, and then running in the 50s for a lot of the rest of us. It's tomorrow night where the frost expands for more of us. The wind begins to die down. We can highlight in blue some of the areas most susceptible to frost tomorrow night. Rutland, Massachusetts, down to 34. You do not need to hit 32 for a frost. That would be a freeze. Great Barrington may pick up a freeze. hard freeze when we get down to the upper 20s. Not many of us are going to be doing that. We get into Wednesday, and the highs aren't a whole lot different. 40s north, 50s south. But Wednesday night, we expand the frost again. Again, first a look at the overall low temperatures, and now we'll just tease out the areas susceptible to frost in blue. And that now includes the suburbs south of Boston from Taunton, perhaps even down to New Bedford on Wednesday night. So this is just about everybody, except maybe right at the coastal plain if you can keep the breeze up just a little bit. But I think, bottom line, we all should be thinking about frost, particularly Wednesday night. And this would be a freeze to Fiskdale, a freeze when you get into Fitchburg, a freeze at Keene and Bennington, Vermont, for that matter as well. Thursday, into the 50s, the cool air still with us. We think that Thursday night, perhaps it eases a bit, but down to the mid-30s we go, which means frost still a possibility for a lot of us. 14-day forecast, we'll talk about that in pattern predictions coming up, but you can always find it using our app. Noyes' 1 degree outside weather app. Search for it on the App Store or Google Play, and you'll be able to track along with it. And I can tell you this, it warms up quite a bit as we get into next weekend, so you'll be able to see that. But again, more on that in pattern predictions. We'll look out through all of next week as well. See you again in just a little bit at onedegreeoutside.com.